Hello. Uh, yeah, turned 40 this week. That's weird. Um, so yeah, I'm tired. I haven't felt like making stuff in a while. Uh, Motivation can be like that sometimes. Um, but I need to make stuff like for the channel here, right? Otherwise, people will forget it exists, and then I won't get to reach the people I want to reach and show them the things I want to show them. So I need to be making more content. And that I know is a matter of building habits of doing stuff like this on a regular basis. So I will do my best to do so. And here I am. And I know I made like a lot of like mental health stuff, and it's definitely going to be part of things. But I also need to bring more of the hobby stuff into it because that's why people, I think, majorly watch my stuff. But yeah, um, I started working on a model. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to like actually go in detail on some kind of little things that I don't know if I really touch on, but I'll do that too. But yeah, so I'm 40 now. It's fucking weird. I don't feel like I'm 40, but I guess I am according to calendars and stuff. But everybody kind of handles those life transitions differently. Uh, I would definitely say for me in general, it's kind of been a focusing on mortality kind of thing, and that statistically half my life it might be over. That being said, kind of makes you think about like what you're doing and the immediacy that you're working on things, and every day is not a guarantee kind of thing. So really kind of makes you want to be more on the ball on a lot of stuff. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where my mind's been a lot lately. It's been kind of tough though. Like it's been a lot of like up and down things here lately. Like we had a kind of a bad scare with my dog. He's doing good now, thank fuck. But we had a bit of a scare with him a couple weeks ago, and that kind of shook me up pretty bad. Um, as well as just the general like, oh, I'm turning 40. I wanted to do this, this, and this with my life. Where am I at? And everybody will more than likely have those sorts of thoughts. And then it goes back to like the main thing is like asking of where you are, what things can you control and what things can't you control. You can do absolutely nothing about the past, and dwelling on it's only going to harm you as much as you maybe feel like, oh, I need to think about where I fucked up in the past, blah blah blah. And I mean, like, I know some people don't think about that at all and just wander through their life obliviously, and it's not that you shouldn't self-reflect, but you'll get to a point to where it's no longer going to do you any good. It's only going to do you harm. So you have to focus on, here I am now. I am 40 now. I can only control what happens from today moving forward. I can only control myself moving forward. And one big thing with doing stuff, and whether it's like you want to build models, or you want to get in shape, or you want to fix this, that, or the other in your life, is motivation. And it's a tricky thing. Probably one of the trickiest things that people ever try to figure out. And I'm not saying I have the solution. I don't have the golden answer or nothing like that. But I will say that I have some thoughts that may be helpful to some people, and that very often we kind of get stuck in these ruts of whether it's like I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, and then you kind of get yourself in a feedback loop, or you're just like I'll start it next week, blah blah blah, and then you get into those procrastination loops. And one way that I would say that one thing to think about that can kind of help you pop out of those, because it's just the fucking truth, is that your time is limited. That's one fact that people don't think about. You need to think about the fact that your time is limited, that you only have so much time to do different things because you literally don't know how long you're going to be alive. That's just a fact. Um, so, maybe you want to light a little bit of a fire under your ass because are you really getting the things done? Do you want to be sitting here at 40 years old like I have been trying to get in, like me, like I've been trying to get in shape for fucking my whole life, and I've made some progress, but I haven't made the progress I wanted. And do I really need to wait another week, or do I need to just get it together? And that includes the days that you don't feel like it, because you got to build habits. And that's one thing. And the other thing that you have to remember is like, because you get in these ruts of like not doing whatever you probably know you need to do, is that you need to also remember that indecision is also a decision, in the fact that your time is limited, that days are limited, that everything, your life has an expiration date, moments in time have an expiration date, opportunities have an expiration date. And when you remember this, you understand that not making decisions, that not doing things is also a decision, just like doing things is a decision. That's just a fact. We want to behave like it's not in that manner, and because then that takes the control out of our hands, and then we can, our psyche tends to want to make us feel helpless about things. And there are some things that we cannot control. Those are the things outside of our lives, and things that we can control that are in our control that you have to face. And yeah, so every day that I don't uh, build, if I have an opportunity to build, if I have the time to do it, is a missed opportunity. That is a decision that I made to not do something. And the repercussions is I won't be as good at the thing that I do. Um, and I mean, of course, there's moderation in there too. It's good to like make sure that you don't do everything all day, every day, that you have moderation in there. But you got to kind of plan this shit out. You got to really, if you want to get shit done, you got to plan shit out, dude. Like, it might be good for you to just sit down with a pad of paper and ask yourself, like, what do you want out of your life? You know, like, what do you really want? Like, maybe you haven't thought about it in a while. Maybe there's things that you wanted in life that you lost the passion for because things happened, and then you think like, oh, I'm just not in the mindset for this. You're running out of time. What do you want? Just because today's not a good day for it, it's still a day. It's still one less day once it's over. So it would be a good idea to like, maybe if you're not sure about these things, to sit down and think about them now. If you got time, do it now. What are you waiting on? Because one day you'll be 40. I don't know how you are right now, but yeah, let's sit down and think about those things, and start asking yourself, like, if there's things that I can control in this scenario, how do I get to that point? Wasted life is a wasted life, man. And you really got to think about that. Like, you got to stop dragging feet on stuff, man. Like, so for me, for example, the getting in shape thing, and it's like I have to ask myself, like, where am I at with this, right? Like, I have weights and stuff behind me, and it's okay. But I recognize about myself, like, I had to self-examine and ask myself, like, why am I where I'm at, and all that shit. And I think maybe I need to start considering actually going to a gym, because I will recognize that in my life, when I've gone to the gym, there's the motivator of I'm paying for this membership, and then there's all the equipment so I can do everything. I can't do everything I want to do here, and that's a demotivator. A motivator is, at a gym, I have all the equipment to do all the things I want to do. So perhaps it's going to be time for me to start looking at that option, and consider that if I really want to get my butt in gear again, because that's what's worked for me before. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, what are you waiting for? I'm not going to wait till next week. I need to do this shit today. So I have to think about that today. Like, I have things I got to do today that are like work stuff, but outside of that, I'm going to have to be thinking about this stuff, because it's time to get that ball rolling. Um, doing the stuff that I'm doing, like, creatively here, it's the same thing. It's like so many days, it's just like, I don't fucking feel like it, but it's like, okay, like, if you don't make videos, people are going to forget about you. If you don't make content, it's not going to draw people in, because what do I want out of this channel is I want people to come here and check this stuff out, so uh, the key to that is consistently putting out content. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for fame or anything else. I'm doing this because I want to pull people in that like to make stuff, and I want to make stuff with people. I want to see what y'all are making. I'll show you what I'm making. I'll show you how to do the things I do. And as the community, as things kind of grow, then I'll get to, even with my close friends, like, they're learning things that I don't know how to do, and they're teaching me new stuff, and that's really rad. And the more the merrier. So yeah, there's your 10 minutes of philosophy to start the day. But yeah, I'm really fucking tired, which was making it really hard for me to do this, because like, if I'm not tired, I'm ready to just like pump out content like this, but I'm so tired. uh I stayed up too late talking to some kind of creator people last night, and I meant to go to bed earlier, but it just wasn't happening. It's like, fine. I made some new friends and some new connections for this sorts of stuff, so it's sacrifice I'm gonna have to pay the consequences for today. And I'm tired, but let's actually get to the fucking content. I've been rambling for 10 minutes now. So one thing I want to talk about is, I guess I just wanted to specifically go into detail on the build process that I do for these models now. The first thing that I want to talk about as a builder, as a creator, and finding your path, if you're into this stuff, if you're into minis and models or whatever, I notice a lot of you out there will kind of hit these points where it's like you're not motivated because it's just like, I don't feel like whatever. I don't feel like painting Warhammer today. I don't feel like building a Gundam today. So you may come into this hobby, and you very often will have this similar path. If you come into the hobby and you were pulled into this hobby by like D&D or Warhammer or Gundam, those are usually the three most common that I see pull you into this stuff that I do. And you might hit a drought when you're just doing the same thing over and over, because anything will get boring after too long, for one piece. For another piece, there may be stuff out there that's kind of adjacent to it that you're just not aware of, that you need to be aware of, that maybe your like hidden passion. Because for my inner circle of people that I work with, we have all noticed this common trend of like, the three of us, I think we all started with Gundam, and then we kind of found something that we liked a little bit better than Gundam. Well, at least 2 out of 3 of us ran into that path. The third, I've been talking to him about that too. I think he hasn't just quite found it, whereas 2 of us have found ours. And you'll know it because it'll speak to you. Like, you'll feel the excitement before you go to build it, or you'll be like, what am I going to do next? And it's like, well, you think about the things that you have in your closet to work on, and it's like, what's really pulling you, you know? And over time, you're going to find that one thing may end up pulling you more than the other. For me, it's been 5-star story kits. For my other friend, it's been 30-minute missions kit. And we have our reasons for liking them and stuff, you know? And that's important for you to think about as a creator of stuff, is that there's a niche out there that's for you that you may not have found yet. And when you find it, that's going to be like your home base. You'll wander out of home base every once in a while, because even if it's like your big, exciting thing, you'll still get bored of it occasionally. And it's good to rotate things, because you need to kind of keep your skill sets fresh, learn new things, expand your horizons. So 5-star stories is my passion stuff, but I still will pause to do Gunpla because of the certain things that come with Gunpla for me, which is like working on water slides, doing custom builds and things like that. Painting minis is the main big one, because I need to keep fresh on my painting skills, painting non-robot things, because building and painting robots and building and painting monsters are 2 completely different feels because of organic shapes and mechanical shapes. It's important for me to rotate those things to kind of keep myself fresh on all fronts, and each thing will make me better at the other thing. But yeah, you'll find a place that you land, and for me, it's the 5-star story stuff. I'm sure you've noticed I've had a good bit of content on the 5-star story stuff. And my process in building the 5-star story stuff, I feel personally will benefit you on no matter what you're building, especially if it's in polystyrene models in general, because my process I'm really liking. Now, as always, this is my process. More than likely, there's a better way to do some, if not all of this stuff. And if you know of ways, let me know. I'm constantly looking for ways to improve my process, which is why I'm even at the place I'm at today versus where I was when I started. So please feel free to chime in on your constructive feedback, on your things that you know about that I don't know, because I would love to hear it. It's how we grow together, we learn, and we become better. So let's go over first things first. First thing you need to do is you need to understand what you're working on. I watch a lot of people try to build these 5-star stories kits, and it goes bad. And what I've observed is it usually goes bad because these instructions are all in Japanese, pretty much. And like, if you're not reading the instructions, because they think that they can just look at the letter and number and build it like a Gunpla. No, you actually got to read the instructions, yo. There's a bunch of important shit in here. Like, this is probably lore over here, which is cool, but not crucial, of course. But little tips about like how to build things. And you'll notice, like, look at this picture here. When I watch people build 5-star stories kits and they go bad very often, they're not gluing or they're not cementing. What's that look like there? Does that look like super glue to you? I think that looks like fucking cement. Because I noticed when I watched a bunch of videos, the people who did really good work with these were all using thin cement. There's a difference between 2 things. It's super glue. It doesn't have the same kind of bond with polystyrene plastic as thin cement, and it also leaves an excess bit of stuff. The thin cement literally melts the plastic together, and it doesn't leave an excess glop of stuff. It is why it is recommended in this manual. The only reason I know about this, obviously, other than a picture, is I will use Google Translate on this. It's not perfect, but it will give you enough of an understanding of what this is trying to tell you to build these kits. The first thing you need to do is understand the way you're supposed to build whatever you're working on. If your manual is in another language, use Google Translate. Read the instructions. I know it's the stereotype of us men not reading instructions, but a lot of people don't read instructions. Yeah, they will help you, and there's a reason why. If these just suck, then nobody would buy them and they would not be on shelves. It's a you problem, not a kit problem. So you need to understand your manual. You need to understand your process that you're working on. You need to understand what you're building. Slow down and read the instructions. If you're like me, I get in a hurry, and sometimes I don't pay attention to the sequence in which things are supposed to go together. And when you do that, you'll have a bad time. So you also go slow. Take your time. And yeah, there's the first thing. And just thoroughly check out your manual sometimes. You'd be surprised. They spent so much money, folks spent so much money making these manuals that are like, they feel like a fucking Sears catalog from the 90s. They're very nice, very thick quality. Take the time to look at these things, to really dive into them. You know, it's nice to look at. There's a lot of color illustrations and shit in here, and a lot of good information. So use this. Don't neglect this, front to back. And if you're gonna paint, they'll tell you like the color mixes. I don't use this because I paint custom stuff my own way. But yeah, that's the first piece to talk about. Second thing to talk about is my tools. These are the tools that I'm currently using to not only build 5-star stories kits, but other polystyrene models. This is what works for me. Pick and choose what works for you out of this, but we'll go down the line with the tools that I use. I use 2 different kinds of Tamiya cement right now. I just explained to you why I use Tamiya cement. There are probably other brands of the same thing, I don't know, but this is what I've found, this is what I use, whatever. But there are 2 viscosities of it. There is a Tamiya extra thin cement, and a regular Tamiya cement. There's probably other grades of it or whatever, but these are the main 2 that I live off of. Why do I use these 2? This here, the thick cement, it is a goopier one, and if you want to like weld 2 parts together to where you can't see the seam, I find this is the better one to use, because when it melts the plastic and you squeeze the 2 pieces together, you get a beaded line down the middle if you did it just right. You want to see that, because once that cures and it's hardened, you scrape it off, you sand it, and then all of a sudden it's one fused piece of plastic and you'll never know it was 2 pieces. It's a very valuable skill to hide your seam lines. Like if you're gonna like try to get serious about these builds and you want to try to enter in competitions, you have to know that. I could give a rat's ass about being in competitions, but I like the better quality that I get out of doing that and learning that process. There's plenty of videos that go more in depth about that, but that's the regular cement. Then you have the thin cement. The difference for me between the regular and the extra thin cement is the extra thin cement can do a couple things for me. Whenever I am cutting parts off a sprue, there will be a nub. Then you shave that nub off, but very often it will kind of leave a scar, especially on the darker runners. The lighter runners, it doesn't leave a scar because when you stress the plastic, it lightens in color. So white won't show that. I'm sure you've noticed if you build these kits. And if you build these kits and you notice on darker sprues, you'll see it a little worse, and it looks like a big fucking cold sore on the side of your model, and that sucks. Looks like shit, especially when you take a picture and you just see it just plain as day, right? There's only so much you can do about that. You can kind of sand it to get it to go away, but if it goes deeper into the plastic, you're either going to have to paint it or you're shit out of luck. Except something cool that this does that it may not have been intended to do that a lot of people don't know is if you spread it over that lighter area, because remember it melts the plastic essentially, it will take a lot of that discoloration out. What I'll very often do is I'll do my best that I can to cut clean sand. If there's still a mark, I'll hit it with the thin cement, I'll let it dry, I'll sand it. Very often the first pass is not enough, but you'll notice it starts to darken. You sand it, you leave your dust of the plastic there, hit it again, because you don't want to sand too much away and that dust will melt back into the plastic. And it's just, sand it, melt it with the cement, sand it again, and it'll start to go darker and darker and darker because it's melting back, the stress is coming out of the plastic. And then you're going to end up like not having nubs. Like nothing I do is like really perfect, but like there were some pretty dark nubs on these gray pieces of these little antennas, and now they're gone because that's what I did with those. It's one thing you do with the cement. The other thing too I like about it is it does tend to cure a lot faster than this does. Because this really to cure, it takes, in my opinion, like 6 hours at least, or like really be hard. And if you don't wait that long, you can kind of like, it'll start to kind of, it's soft. And I've literally had shit just kind of sag and just bend like taffy and fuck up. This is quicker. Like I have gotten away with, and I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but I've gotten away with like doing my little de-stress, hitting it with a hairdryer for 45 seconds, and it's good to sand again. It works enough to look good. It's probably not the right way, but I'm just saying it's fast, much faster. Um, it also, it just, it's not as goopy. So if you're just sort of like trying to get two tiny little pieces together and you don't want too much of a crap to remove, then cement is another way to fuse two parts. It's not as hardcore. It's just a thin bond. Like I had to use it. His little chin strap broke here on the bottom, and I used the thin cement because I just needed it to bond, to fuse that back together. It wasn't that big of a break and get it where it needed to be. That this would have been too goopy and too thick and too much. So there's two kinds of cement to use. Very good stuff to use. All right, going down the line, when I'm cutting them off the runner, I don't cut the part directly off the runner. You don't cut right here up against the part. You cut further up here. So let's just do one to demo, shall we? All right, heads assembled. We're moving on to the neck. So it says take the G-sprue. I'm going to walk you through how to do this correctly, quote unquote. All right, I got to build the neck of this dude. So what I do is I have two cutters. Here's just a good pair of generic single blade nippers. These are God hands. I'm sure you probably heard of these if you're in the hobby. A lot of people don't know how to use them proper. There's a proper way to use them, quote unquote. All right, I got to cut out G31 and 32. Here's the neck pieces. You'll notice when I cut, I first do the regular cuts with these. These blades are thicker than these. These are a thinner blade. They're more fragile, so you don't want to use them on wider, thicker pieces of plastic. This is a thicker blade. This is a thinner. This is a thicker. So we're going to do our base cuts further away from the part to leave a bit of a nub there. Boom, boom. By the way, these ones I'm using are the USA Gundam Store single blade nippers. They're like 35 bucks. They're a pretty good price to use of these single blade nippers. Next thing is the God hands. This is a thinner blade, so you can get closer to the plastic. It's sharper. It will leave less stress. So what you want to do is you don't necessarily want to just come right down to the base and just chop. I kind of take little bites because little bites tend to stress the plastic less. So it's like this, you kind of nibble at the nub back and forth, get it down lower, and then once it's pretty low, then do your final cut. There's a little bit of a stress mark that we'll have to remove there, but we'll get to that. Let's do the other one. Take the little bites, take the final cut. Same thing with this part. Little bites, final cut. Sometimes it's a smaller and you can't really get that many cuts, but on the bigger pieces you really want to take little bites as much as possible so you don't stress the plastic any more than you have to and make more work for yourself in the cleanup. Next tool I will very often use is one of these razor glass files. You can get glass files for nails, but the texture for the ones for nails that are cheap aren't the right texture and they tend to make it too shiny and not get a good texture. These razor ones and other brands that are made for gum stuff, they tend to be a better texture for a good final result that is the nice texture. And you don't want to go too hardcore on this because you can round your edges too much and wear too much shit off it, but you want to try to give it a couple passes, see if you can get that little bit of stuff off there. Get it down to where it's like pretty low, right? Another tool that you can use for these that is a staple in my tools are these little, there's many variations of these blades of a seam remover blade. And you can kind of use them to shave a little excess off there. And sometimes this will be enough to where you will not have a mark if you've just done just a good enough job of removing shit. If not, then you can do your little cement method there. But remove this off here and you just kind of gently, just not too much pressure, just kind of drag it along and until you stop feeling an edge, a lip on that nub, and then it's like gone, that's that. And then if you want to thin cement it, you can, and it's just literally like get your excess off, just have just a tiny little bit of it on there, and then you just kind of get it just generally here on the spot. I wouldn't normally do this because this is going to be an invisible part, but it's a way for me to demonstrate my method. Okay, so do that. And the next thing you might do if you're going to do that, you let it sit for a minute, and as it sits, it will start to darken that plastic down to the way you want it to look. And you'll notice now the white stress. Well, I don't know if you can see from my camera because it's like kind of limitations, but the white is gone now already. If you got to that point, you got the discoloration gone, then all that matters is you have to get the sheen to where you want it to be. And I'll show you that. Hit this with the hairdryer real quick. Next stuff that you're going to use. See, it's already dry. It's crazy fast. These are the shit right here, y'all. These God Hands little sanding foam strips are awesome. They're not too bad price-wise. I have them everywhere from like 120 grit up to like 10,000, but I don't use most of them. I will usually, you want to kind of sand and see what the sheen of your kit is because some parts are shinier than others. 10,000 is only necessary if you need to get it like a glassy finish. So for like kind of more of a velvety look, kind of a not quite so shiny, I usually am good enough to start at like a 2,000 and go up to like a 6,000 or an 8,000 max. But you just work your way up. So let's see, 2, 4, 6 should be good enough for this. And again, the shinier you need it, the higher up in grit you go. Make sure when you sand in little circles. You don't leave little scratch lines, and you just do your business here until it all looks uniform. Same color, same sheen, you know you're good. Same color, same sheen, you know you're good. Go up to the 4. Just make sure you're working in circles. And you go up in grit until you're seeing the same sheen as the plastic around it that you haven't sanded and you know. I might have to go up from 6,000. I don't know. It's still looking kind of dull. Again, it doesn't matter for this. This is just for demonstration purposes, but just to kind of pay attention to how shiny it looks compared to the plastic around it. Yeah, we're going to need to go up to an 8,000. Almost. Shit, we might have to go to a 10,000 for this because this bottom piece is for whatever reason. Nah, 8,000 is good enough. It's close enough. I don't know how well you can see, but it's essentially exactly the same as the plastic around it now. No nub mark gone. You've done it. You've got a good, nice, clean cut. No nub marks. People won't talk shit about your nub marks on your build. All right, let's go ahead and join the parts together. You gotta put the poly cap in there. 9. And I'll usually do a test fit to see how the part fits together before I like fuse it with a cement. All right, so that goes there. That's odd. It doesn't kind of lock in, but whatever. But this piece will be like a good example of where you might use this thicker to fuse the two pieces. It would be too long for me to show you in a video, and there's other videos already out there to show you how to use the regular Tamiya cement to weld your parts, like welding metal. So some other quick tools I'm going to show you that I use. If I'm having trouble manipulating like little slides or little pieces and stuff, a good expensive pair of tweezers that won't bend and buckle on you. Very important thing to have. I already showed you this cutter. These, by the way, are Hako tweezers. They're made for soldering. They're just good for many things, and I've kept them around long after I quit doing small electronics repair. They're only going to be like maybe $10, but they're a very tough material that is hard to bend and fuck up. I like for cleanup work sometimes I have these little cheap disposable scalpels. They just tend to be very sharp. They're made for surgery, so they're very sharp. A sharp blade will not stress plastic too much. A good disposable razor is a good thing to have. Sometimes for shaving seam lines and stuff, I'll have a square-ended or a flat-ended X-Acto. Is good for shaving seam lines sometimes. I could probably accomplish all these with one blade, but I like having options sometimes. A little pry tool, again, from when I used to do small electronics repair. This is a good tool to manipulate your parts around that you're putting stuff together with. And it has like a little like lip to get into things. Sometimes it's better to use this in particular. Like if this is a softer material than metal to get in between parts so you don't like you don't damage or stress the parts you're trying to pry apart if you goof something up or have to go back in. As opposed to the traditional tool that a lot of companies will sell is this little, again, it's a USA Gundam store. It's just a tool to pry apart stuff that you put together. It's kind of like a little sharp little screwdriver thing. It's good for most times you got to pry stuff apart, but if sometimes it's too much If you need a more delicate, a plastic spudger with a softer material will be less likely to stress your stuff you're prying apart. I got this MadWorks handle for different blades. There's a scribing tip in it. And sometimes I'll use it to just not even just scribe. I'll use the edge of a scribing tip to shave off seam lines, to shave off excess. It's just another blade that's really hard that will shave gumpless gently and not damage the plastic too much, as long as you don't put too much pressure. But you can put many different blades in this thing to use. It's just a damn good handle. It's like 20 bucks, and you can fit just about any little manipulator tool blade that you need to put in here will go in this one handle. It's hefty, it's thick, it's got a good flat edges for getting a good hold on it. It won't slip in your hands. With this dumb little cheap thing, these little gun primer for dusting your dust. When you are actually done with what you're doing and you need to clear coat, you need to get all that dust off there before you clear coat your builds. It's a good little tool to have. I use these very often to squeeze together small parts that are cemented or glued. These are just like traditional little things for airbrush, but like I had to squeeze these two pieces together so they would stay together long enough for the cement to cure. One way to do it for little pieces. For bigger pieces, I got these little dollar, just cheap throwaway clamps for your cemented stuff. You can get that nice seam line, squeeze your parts together tightly and make them stay together. Another thing from soldering, just a little grabby for holding stuff, whether you're going to be painting it, coating it with clear coat or whatever. It's a good thing to have. Yeah, and that's it for my build tools. Basically, beyond that, it turns into decoration, which is a whole nother conversation. And we can talk about that maybe for paint on stuff. But just having these tools and this foundation of stuff, there's really, with practice, there's no reason you can't build these 5-star story kits very clean and look super good, and not be like those complaining YouTubers who don't know how to put these things together and have a much better time with them. So, shit, there's a 30-minute video. That went quicker than I thought. So I hope this was informative. I hope you like this video, and thanks for stopping by. So time to start my day, and I'll see y'all around next time.